My name is Johnathan Clark, also known as Courageous, and my big idea is that by blending creative art and psychological science, we can find some of the answers to the world's toughest questions. What does it take to make something? To make something out of nothing. An idea, a dream, a vision, woven, painted, sculpted, or written. Slowly, sometimes painstakingly, coming to fruition. It's a process. An artistic one at that. For some, it's believing in the existence of an object before it's ever even considered an object. For others, it's taking something old and making it new again. For the very first time, shaking the dust off, scraping the rust off, buffing some scratches, applying paint, updating some accents, and watching it shine. It's a deviation from the line, "Don't you ever call me normal. I'm an artist." They labeled us left-brained, quirky, eclectic, eccentric. It's about holding a small piece of your world in a way that only you can grip it, forcing it, birthing it from the frontal cortex into the palm of your hands, the strings in the band, or making an entire meal from something that simply grew from the land. It takes a special kind of person to make something out of nothing. So welcome to this maker city. Some of us make because that's all we ever knew. We were makers before it was cool, before there were rules, before there were tools, and we made a way out of no way at all. Making hardships soft. We weren't just making a living, we lived for the making. Some of us are just conduits, making it do what it do, letting loose the ego and encouraging the ingredients to shine through. Others make plans from visions to sketches, blueprints to prototypes, hands-on, from production to logotypes. It's a process, an artistic one at that. This one time, Chris, I even made a mistake. Yanked it off the drawing board, called it one of a kind, and announced that it's not for sale. I made it. It's mine. I owned it. Put it on my wall like a trophy with the inscription, "Make the most of it." Learned from a bread maker to bake the toast of it. If you believe you were created to be like the creator, then you should be making something, creating something. And even if you don't, you should still believe that we exist simply to supersede, so make a difference. Whether it's showing the forest how wood works, making miracles on canvas in the little time we get for art bursts, making space for others to find their gift, their voice, their sense of self-worth, make a path, make change, make waves, make moves. Whichever medium you find is for you, refuse to think small when you can make a big deal in the only form it makes sense to you. Whatever you choose to make, however you decide to amplify the beat of your heart, no matter what you do, just be sure you make your mark. And remember, it's a process, an artistic one at that. That was it. That was my poem for the makers. And that's kind of the idea of blending the creative art with the passion of science. And it gets like when we talk about the prefrontal cortex and all these kind of things where creation lives and all these ideas. And I started thinking about, when you asked me to be here, I started thinking about my journey into entrepreneurship and how it's been filled with like changes, adaptation, and growth, and learning and failing, and a couple more failing, and starting over, and joy and excitement, pain, so much fulfillment, and so much more. So in 2021, I was elected to be part of the Mayor's Maker City Council. I was one of those people who is maker adjacent, you could say. I come in with the desire to really change how we looked at makers and what the definition of a maker is. And that's what I wanted to bring in, the idea of artists as entrepreneurs. Musicians, poets, playwrights, theater makers, MCs, producers, not just people who made gifts that you could put on Etsy. And I had the opportunity to participate in the Co-Starters program in the fall of 2022, facilitated by the amazing Catherine Porth. And I can honestly say that's one of the best things that I've ever done. It was the introduction I needed into solidifying the belief that I could really make something meaningful. I could really live the life that I wanted to live, fulfill the dreams that I had simply by turning them into goals. It sounds super simple, but that was it. Planning the steps out, assessing my strengths, my weaknesses, creating the pathway to deciding for myself what I wanted my life to look like in the next 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. You have to ask yourself, like, does your 9 to 5 offer you that agency, that ability to choose? I was then fortunate enough to be selected to be part of a cohort, one of Knoxville Entrepreneur Center's programs, the 100 Knox Black Business Accelerator Program, in the spring of 2023. And during this 5-week intensive, I learned more than I'd ever expected. But mostly I learned what it meant for me to succeed and what that actually looked like. To really explore the idea of the legacy that I wanted to leave behind. Honestly, before 100 Knocks and a tutelage by the amazing Candace Troutman, I had never even asked myself that question. I'd never decided what I want my legacy to be, how I wanted to be remembered for the things that I created. And at the time I applied for 100 Knocks, I was honestly considering a baking business. So through the pandemic, I began learning to bake cakes and do all these things. And I got to gain like 40 pounds that I had lost before the pandemic. And people would just comment how it wasn't like any other cake that they'd ever had. Like even the people that say I don't like cake like that really enjoyed it. Like, whoa, like this is kind of different. And I have this quirk about me when I want to learn something, I can be downright obsessive in the process of figuring it out. No matter how long it takes, how much I spend doing it, I want to gain some kind of mastery over whatever it is I'm seeking to learn. So I came to our first meeting with this idea that I was going to start a baking business and do the artificial intelligence work and on the side, make a thing. And that was just kind of the idea. And then I was going to sell the baking business for in 5 years or so to the person that wanted to take it over. And that would be that. It wasn't my plan to be a baker for the rest of my life. And Candace didn't necessarily change my mind, but she really shifted it into a perspective for me. She laid out the two futures that I kind of had in front of me and asked which one that I thought looked better, 4 to 6 hours to make a cake that I could sell for $100, or this one that changes how people empathize and how people see each other and what we do with our biases and all these kind of things, and which one would leave a legacy. And the cake might last for, you might be able to freeze it and have it for 6 months maybe if you're there, but I'm sure you can realize which one I chose. And I'm so glad that I did. I decided to make myself. I decided to give my drive a makeover, so to speak. And all I really needed was examples, to hear stories, to watch people in real time, real people create for themselves the lives they wanted to live. And it wasn't like the multi-level marketing schemes, like we're selling travel. We can go to Thailand for $62. It was more like the land of opportunity here. And it's just, this is what changed my perspective from they do to I can. And that was the biggest shift that I learned. I changed the topics and the types of conversations I was having, even the conversations I was having in my head. I changed the books I was reading. I changed the objects around me and the spaces that I could control. I set up my home office. I kept the plan alive for more than 2 weeks. I changed, that's really all I changed. I'm still working on it every single day, but I became a maker and the sole member and the founder of the LLC, Artificial Intelligence, a company that uses a blend of art and science to help groups and organizations alike foster empathy, overcome unconscious bias, and connect to an expressive art form they never knew they needed. And every single day I plan ways to make it bigger and set time aside to imagine what growth looks like and how I can leverage this maker city and these endless opportunities into what will eventually become my legacy.